Hi everyone, this is Christine Josty from Mail Something Pretty, and I am doing a two-part video series on the difference between Blends markers and Stampin Write markers. So this is kind of the part two. It doesn't matter which order you watch them in, but I'm going to show you the Stampin Blends markers in this video. The video I just filmed was on the Stampin Write markers, so that's what these ones look like, and then these are the Stampin Blends markers. They look kind of similar, but these are much skinnier and smaller, and these are a little thicker. So I'm going to show you the benefits and why I love these, and hopefully you'll see why too. So with the Stampin Blends, they are an alcohol-based marker, and you need to use a Memento black or Memento ink, I suppose any color, but I typically use the black ink. And if you use StazOn ink, which is another black ink that we use, that is an alcohol ink. So when you use alcohol ink with an alcohol marker, they kind of bleed together, and so you don't want that. So if you use the Memento, it kind of creates a barrier, and so there will be no bleeding. And so that's what you want. A little tip, there are two tips on the Blends markers. There's a brush tip like that. Oh, that's actually a bad brush tip. Let me show you another one. They do get, mine get used a lot in classes, and so they get a little dull. So the brush tip, which shows the picture, and then I don't even know what they call this one, a fine tip point. You can use both. I'll show you both. I tend to use the brush tip because it's more like a paintbrush, and I enjoy painting. But they both work. They're both the same ink inside. And you may notice I had like a little blue dot on here because I use the brush tip so often. I just see the blue dot. It knows that that's the tip that I want to use. So it's just a little reference point. In the Stampin Write markers, I had put washi tape around the brush tip. But whichever tip that you like, you can kind of make a little notation of that. Okay, I'm just trying to think. Okay, so the first, I'm going to use this set. So you want a set that can color in. And I said in the other video, you could use the Stampin Write markers to color in, but I like to do like little images. So the butterfly would be fine, or something a little bigger would be fine. But when you're doing large images, you're really going to want to use the blends, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to ink up my stamp here. Okay, and it just takes a second to dry, and then you can go ahead. So actually, let me show you first. In the catalog, the blends, and they're adding more and more colors all the time. They are sold both separately. I should have said this too. On each marker, it says, has different languages too, but it says this one's a dark daffodil delight, and then this one should be the light, the light daffodil delight. So they're sold in lights and darks separately, or you can do a combo, which both of them. The price is the same, so they're $4.50 each, or $9 for a combo pack. So there's no benefit to buying the combo pack. However, you really do kind of want the two colors to use together, because you are going to, the whole point of them is to kind of blend together. I don't know if you've ever used Copic markers. So this is Stampin' Up's version of Copic markers. Copics, excuse me, are much more expensive. I think they're about $7 or $8 each marker, whereas these are $4.50, so that's nice. And then these are Stampin' Up colors, so obviously that's a nice thing. So everything will match when we're creating. Copic markers, I will say, are refillable, where these are not refillable. So once they're empty, you just buy a new one, which is why they sell them singular too, because you might use one more than the other. So that is that. All right, so what I like to do is start with the lighter color first, and then use the darker color, and then go back to the lighter color. Some people will go use the darker color first, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just tend to use the lighter color first. I also tend to color sometimes in a circular motion. That's just me. There's no, right or wrong in coloring. The other thing is when you use these markers, sometimes there's no line. So sometimes when you color with the regular markers, you would see, because of all those stroke marks, you would see like a little line. I wonder if actually, if I could even do that with this and show you. Yeah. All right, so see how you can see the lines in that? And there's no lines in that one. And so that's one of the beauties of these markers. So this is fine just as is, but if you wanted to show a little like shadows and color graduations, so this is when I go in with my darker color, and this tip is a little kind of messed up too. So what's nice is there's a lot of the line art kind of tells you where the marks are already. So you can just kind of go where there's a black line. You can do the waist if you want to do like under the armpit, there's usually a shadow, or under the hair. You can get into like the direction of the light and all that stuff, but for a lot of this, that doesn't matter. So I did the light, I did the dark, and now I'm going to go back with the light, and I'm going to go over it. And so what happens is it just kind of brings the colors together, and it gets rid of the color, the line difference between the light and the dark difference. Okay, that will dry in a second. And so if you flip your paper over, you can see through, and you actually want that because that means you have enough color saturation on the paper. So it's still wet, it's still drying. So let me show you another cool thing. I'm gonna take, this is Balmy Blue, and this is a light Balmy Blue. I was gonna use Pool Party, but I discovered it was empty because I use that color a lot. So I'm gonna color this girl's dress blue. And then I'm going to go in, and it's not going to wreck the marker. Like some markers, if you go in a lighter color on top of a dark color, it will wreck it. You can color on top of any color, and it will not transfer or wreck your marker. So I'm going to kind of turn this girl's dress more into a green dress. And then I'm going to go back over. So it kind of makes it a little bit more subtle. It has some highlights in there of that yellow. And then if I wanted to go in where this is the darker Balmy Blue, where those shadows are, under her hair. You see how this is addictive, and then you can just keep going back and forth and just coloring on top of coloring. This is why I love them. And there comes a point where you need to know where to stop. But anyways, so hopefully you can kind of see that there's still yellow in there, which gives a little green effect, but it just gives a little bit more dimension to the dress. And hopefully you can see on this one where those lines are, where the darker shadows are. So that one was just with the two yellows. And then what I want to show you, so for Skintone, this is what, they don't sell it as a pack. Again, they're all sold individually, but what I've found that what I like for Skintones are the light and dark, what color is this? Petal Pink. This is the Ivory. So they actually do sell two. They used to have them separate, I guess. I'm just looking in the catalog here. Oh yeah, here they are. I'm like, where are they? They don't even show you really colors. There's bronze, ivory, and a color lifter, which I'll show you in a second. So the bronze and ivory are initially where they're kind of their skin tones. But I actually like the Petal Pink, these two, and then sometimes a light or a dark, it's a dark one, a light or a dark crumb cake work too. And so I'll show you what I mean. All right, so we'll do, I'll do, I just saw something, so I'm gonna do it down here. This is the light Petal Pink. You may not notice the difference because these are pretty close. This is the dark Petal Pink. Oh yeah, you might. And then this is the Ivory. This is the light crumb cake. And actually I haven't used that other tip yet, so I'll show you the other tip. This is the dark crumb cake. So this is that other tip. And it works the same. Just a different tip. And then this is the brown. So these girls are going to look kind of funny because they have different colors. But that's kind of the from the lightest all the way to the darkest of the skin tones. And then what I wanted to show you, they have what's called a color lifter. And it looks white. So I don't know if you can see. I kind of went out of the lines a little bit there. And so the color lifter, it won't erase. But if you go on top, it will kind of lift up the color a little bit. And you just give it a minute. You can also see, I'm going to actually show you in another example. But let me show you in this one because it's a dark color. You can, and this is good sometimes when you do highlights. I'll just do a circle. Let's see how it lifts the color. It almost gives a bleach effect. So it doesn't like erase the color, it just lifts it. But it's good for making highlights or something, which I'll do in a second. But sometimes if you go out of the lines, you can just kind of push it back in and it helps a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's other benefits I wanted to show you on this example, but I think that's it. All right, so they look a little funny, but it shows all the skin tones. All right, the next one I wanted to show you actually is the one with the color lifter. And I'm going to use the Country Home. I'm going to use the little watering can. And this is a polymer stamp, so I do definitely want to use the pad, but sometimes I like to color on it anyways. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to use my light and dark smoky slate, I think, right? Yeah. And I'm going to use a little blue in there. So I'm going to first start, and so this one I want to show you. So sometimes when the light comes, especially on like a watering can or a galvanized steel, you see like the color reflection or where the light hits. So I'm going to try to show you how I do that. And then this is also a curved vessel. So, you know, you might want to color in a curved motion. Again, you're not going to see the lines, but it kind of helps with, I'm going to bring it this way. I'll just do the whole bottom. So now I'm going to leave, I'm going to fix it, but I'm going to leave that white. That's kind of where the sunlight's going to hit. And then I'm going to go, and again, this has those kind of, indicates where there's darker areas. So I'm just going to kind of color on those. Maybe I'll leave a little light spots, and there's some color on here, and then usually on the bottom, sometimes on the corners. And again, there'll be dark. Sometimes you just have to look at just look at things and see where's the sun hitting, where is it darker, where is it lighter. And actually, before I go in with that, I'm going to put a little blue because especially with the galvanized steel or glass, or it picks up colors from surrounding areas. So I want this to have just a little blue to it. Not a whole lot, but just little hints. All right, so if you look at that and you're like, oh, that's kind of weird, but this is where the magic of these markers come in, because you're going to blend it together. So this is that lighter color. So I'm going to go back over. And so now I'm going to go over a little bit more of my white area because even though I'm going over it with the same color, this already has a layer. So this will get darker and then that will be a little bit lighter. So you really just have to play. Just play with the markers. And then where there's, I'm going to do a little bit more blending where I had that darker color. let's see, and then you have to sit back for a second, let it dry. Okay, so let that sit for a second. You see, I'm not letting it sit, I'm coloring. Okay, so now I'm going to let that sit. We're going to let it dry, and then we'll come back to it and see. Okay, so the third one I wanted to do was the bird, and this is where we went from easier to medium to harder. Oh, I already have it on the block. So we're going to color this bird, and this is free as a bird. My bird's probably not going to be a true real bird. I just kind of picked colors, but I wanted to show you more of the blending of different colors together. Okay, so there's the bird. And I'm going to use, let's see, these colors, okay? So I'm going to start with the lightest one, so that's my petal pink. So I'm just going to color in the breast here of the bird. Okay, and then I'm going to, the next color up is the darker petal pink. And then, that's actually, I have two of those ones. And then I'm going to actually use the finer tip. Oh, and the other, you see me struggling getting these caps off. That's what I wanted to say. It's very important for the caps to be on really tight, and you hear that click, or sometimes if I have to, I'll just put it on the table to click it. And sometimes they are a little hard to pull out, but that's what you want, because if the caps are not on tight, they will dry out, and then you need to buy new markers. Okay, so I'm using the black lines kind of as a guide of where it's dark. And then sometimes right underneath, you know, the wing, there'd be a little shadow. So I just did a tiny little lines. I'm going to go back with my lighter color. And I told you I like to do a circular motion to kind of blend those together. Just softens the edges. Okay, so I'll leave that, let it dry, and then see if we go back to it. And so then for the wings, I'll do my blue. I'll do a little bit of the head. And then I'll do the darker blue. Okay, so that looks fine. Let me actually put a little bit of, I'm just going to leave a little bit of white on the, there we go. So you can go in, so I'm going to use the petal pink on the blue, because I've used the petal pink on here, but if I use a little petal pink on here, do you see what it does? It kind of ties them in together and lightens this up a little bit. I do that a lot too when I'm coloring. Actually, I'll color another can. I introduce crumb cake a lot of times when I'm doing this, or gray into something. And it just gives a little, before they were like two separate colors, and now it kind of comes together. So we need to do a yellow beak. Again, this is not a real bird. At least I don't think so. Actually, I could even show you. I can take a little bit of the light gray, because it's probably not all the same color. So if you introduce another color, it still has the tones that were in there, but now do you see how now it looks a little bit more realistic? So you'd have to sometimes introduce a little neutral in there, or like I did, I had the petal pink here, so I carried it over into there. And then you can, this is where it gets dangerous, because then I really should stop sometimes. I'll just bring a little bit of that orange into the belly. So you really just need to play. You know, I'm using a tiny little space of paper. You just need to set some time to play. Yeah, so actually I guess maybe I'll just stop, because you could, like I did, I introduced the color. Maybe I'll put a little more blue in there. I don't want to go too overboard with this. But that's how you're going to get the highlights. You get a little, it's not just a straight gray, but you have some color in there. I showed you the tones of the skin and then the coloration. So that's kind of like a really just 101 on the blends, but I really like using them. So I encourage you to get a couple sets. You need a couple colors to go together. Find a stamp set that you want to color in, and then decide on that which colors you want to get. But I would say for neutrals, you're either going to want a crumb cake or a smoky gray, smoky slate, just to kind of tie things in together. I use both of these probably equally, so either one, and then get a color and see what you think. So anyways, those are the benefits of the blends, and you can kind of see them in comparison to, if you watch the other video, this is what I did with the Stampin Write markers. But you can kind of see, like, this has a little bit of translucentness to it, whereas this is just a straight matte color. There's benefits for both. But that's, in a nutshell, that is the difference between Stampin Write markers and the Stampin Blends. If you ever have questions you want clarifications for, I'm always looking for ideas to do videos or to explain things or to put up little pictures. I need your ideas so I can kind of teach you. So please send them to me. My email is christine@mailsomethingpretty.com. You can write on my Facebook pages or join my group. Again, join my mailing list at mailsomethingpretty.com, and then you'll get my weekly emails with all sorts of information. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you another time. Have a great day.